Here we go. It's the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee, Derek Brandeo, Jen Rolnick. Next 2 hours. We're glad you are with us wherever you are watching, listening. Sportsnet 590, Sportsnet 360, Sportsnet Plus. JB, how's the microphone treating you right now?
Oh, am I making lots of noise?
Tons of noise.
Sorry, guys.
What's happening there?
You're good. He's just adjusting.
Okay.
He's just making an adjustment.
Us professionals do that before the show.
In-game adjustments. Only the greats can do it on the fly, Sammy.
Yeah.
And as always, if you can't catch us live, give us a download wherever you get your pod. And especially this week with your thoughts and ideas on trade deadline week, give us a text at 590-590. So here we go, boys. In the world of don't get too high from Saturday night's win against the Rangers to don't get so low with a 4-1 loss to the Boston Bruins.
Yeah.
Where are you between Saturday and last night? Because
you don't know me very well, Kippy.
You know, I was contemplating yesterday grabbing that clip off of you at the beginning where you got super optimistic a little bit coming off. I didn't want to do that to you.
Yeah.
I didn't want to bring that back up, but it just goes to show you, and I'm not that far off of you, and we know it's just such a roller coaster with this team.
It is, and it isn't. I think I'm going to be the most frustrating version of myself today to have a show with for you guys, because I thought they were pretty good last night. I didn't think they were that bad. A terrible start. They fell behind the game, and they chased the game the whole way, and that was hard. But I thought they created just as much as Boston did. I thought I know they had way more time in the Boston end than the Toronto end. You know, to me, one goalie was really good, and the Leafs got off to a bad start. And, you know, they weren't able to catch up, I think, with a worse goalie in net or a couple of better finishes. It's a different game. So I didn't think they were that bad last night. You think they got pumped?
I just think, no, I don't think they got pumped.
Yeah.
But I have question marks, and you said terrible start. So I'm okay with you saying terrible start, but like I want answers to why a terrible start. Why weren't you ready to play? Why do you win a face-off at 7:05 puck drop, get the puck in deep, and then
breakaway.
Look for a breakaway 6 seconds later, maybe 4, between Boston behind their net and then a breakaway. Somebody explain to me how that happens.
I am not capable of doing that. The best I can do is that this team does tend to get complacent when they have a lot of success. You know, the Rangers game felt like they really proved to the good teams they can play with the good teams, and maybe they just, you know, we'll settle in and, you know, we'll show our stuff as this game gets going. But no, the Bruins came in with a purpose, and the Leafs certainly did not.
The Leafs are usually up for these kind of games.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, to me, I was pretty stunned by that start. And I feel like I have a really good feel of this team by now. I have a master's degree in this team. But I don't know why they started like that. That's, you know, they have a great game on Saturday against the Rangers, which we talked about a bunch yesterday.
Yeah.
They go into that game against a division rival, one that they're potentially going to play in the playoffs with a ton of history. Yeah. I just don't get why that would be the way you would start the game. Wouldn't that be one of the ones that this team usually gets up for and plays hard? It was just a really confounding start to me, and it cost them the game. It was really weird. I didn't see that coming.
No, I didn't either. You know, and I guess when I see a lot of criticism of the Leafs when I go online and the reaction to these games, it's treated like some sort of moral failing. Like, you know, they didn't try, or they don't care, or they don't whatever. You know, I didn't see that. And I know I'm kind of swimming upstream on that, but I thought they played a pretty good hockey game. You're right. The start, I agree. We need some answers for what happened there. Why you come out of the gate, you're out of position. You know, you give up the first few goals. That stunk. But, you know, that 50 minutes of decent hockey to me is not anything to panic about. I don't feel much different about the team today than I did 2 days ago.
That's fair.
Although, let me say this. I'm glad it happened 72 hours before trade deadline, so they can go, that defense isn't good enough. Like the Leafs defense, we need someone else. Timothy Liljegren was awful. Brodie, terrible. Like, I'm glad it was like, hey, if we're going to beat the Bruins, we don't have enough here. We're still going to need more.
Do you really think that Brad Treliving needed to see that last night to come to the conclusion that you're talking about?
They were starting to like the smell of their own farts, Kip. 9 wins in 10. They were starting to go, maybe we're okay. Maybe we don't want to disrupt the chemistry here.
There's a bit of flatulence huffing, I would say.
If what you're saying, if it's remotely true, I don't like your chances of finding the answers between discovering this last night and Friday at 3 p.m. No, that's really cramming.
You don't think last night
10 minutes
exposed to
before
them
the
like,
exam.
oh man, we need to cram before the exam?
No, it's too
then
late.
You're giving them credit, and you think they knew they needed to study.
I would hope that they've been working on something, and I would hope that things are in place right now so you can put the final stamp of approval on it and get it done.
To me, they were in their office going, do we really want to give up a first for David Savard? Are we sure we want to do this? And then after the game, they all went, yeah, we do. We definitely want to do that deal.
Yeah. Are they a David Savard away from being a competitive blue line?
Buddy, there was headlines in the Toronto Sun last year in the deadline. Great work, Doobie, I believe was the headline.
Wow.
You're never over the hump.
No.
Was that the Ryan O'Reilly?
Yeah. You're never over the hump. You get as good as you can and cross your fingers.
Yeah.
But, it's not like...
No one's perfect.
Yeah, now we get... Name the best player available. Hanifin and Buchnevich, they get them both. Is that enough to win a cup? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
I don't know.
All right, let's go to Sheldon Keefe for our first Kippers Clipper on playing the Bruins last night.
They're a premier team in the league. Every night you play them, you're in for a tough night. It was exactly what we expected in that sense.
There you go.
So he says every night you're in for a tough night.
Against the Bruins.
The one thing that I kind of got reminded last night on is the Bruins and the culture of the Bruins.
Why won't it die?
What's that?
If you're a Leafs fan, why won't the culture die?
It won't die.
Is it Brad Marchand? Is he the threat?
It doesn't die. So here they are, supposedly weaker than they were just a few years ago. No Patrice Bergeron. They lose Krejci. Lindholm's their best defenseman.
No Hall.
And yet that culture came through last night. And that's why Sheldon says every night's tough against them. Every night. And with the Leafs, not every night's tough. Some nights are great, Saturday night, and then some nights are kind of not great. Yeah. And I put the culture for the Leafs was not great last night. Yes, there were windows when they looked okay. Yeah. But Boston's culture doesn't allow many nights where you're just going, we just don't have it. We just don't have it. And Pasternak doesn't allow that. Like last night, guys, Leafs had no answer. Marner wasn't an answer for Pasternak last night. Matthews wasn't an answer. And Nylander wasn't an answer for Pasternak.
He was by far the best guy in the rink, Pasternak.
But not even close.
No, not even close. Agreed.
Okay, but here's the thing. Isn't that a problem in itself that you're paying these guys $10, $11 million and it's not even close?
Yes. I would not argue with that. But I think this culture thing you're talking about, they've lost how many since the All-Star break? 9 of 13 or whatever. Their culture is they get up to play the Leafs. They love beating the Leafs. They know they own the Leafs. They're not afraid of their big boys. They come into this matchup and they know that they can go in there and they can impose their will. That's the big part of this culture is that they're not afraid of the Leafs big guys at all. And Pasternak clearly loves playing against the Leafs. Marchand loves it. And that's a huge issue for me.
When you go into playoffs and you look at the other team's elite players, when you run the Matthews line head-to-head with the Bruins guys, or whether it's, I don't know, Colorado's guys, or it's Vegas's guys, like there hasn't been enough times where you feel like in good, meaningful games that the Leafs guys head-to-head just roll over the Pasternak line or they dominate the Tkachuk line, in Florida. They haven't shown yet that in big games, their line can be the best line on the ice consistently.
And even on Saturday, it wasn't those guys that did it, right? Anyways.
All right, let's go to Sheldon Keefe on his overview of what he thought about last night.
Boston played hard. They defended their net extremely well. And I thought we're better than us in that area for sure. But I think, when they make good on their chances and we don't make good on ours, you tend to overanalyze the game and overemphasize the negative. We did a lot of good things here today, but you can't just do good things and expect to beat a team like Boston. You gotta do great things. You gotta be ultra competitive. You've got to be great on special teams. There's a lot of things that need to line up, and there weren't enough of those for us tonight.
The Leafs outpossessed the Bruins by more than I've seen them outpossess a team in a while. I know, and you guys don't care about that, but to his point, I think there's a lot of analysis going into, the game where if shots go in, it probably feels a lot different. But the Bruins do defend the net very well. Bunkus had a point on Leafs Talk with him last night where he basically said that this felt like a playoff game where the Leafs fall down 1 or 2. And then they play great for the whole game, but they can't quite get inside. And the goalie plays really well. And it's just one of those frustrating chase the game nights that felt like a playoff failure.
Did he throw in that the power play kind of disappears?
Power play disappears. You give up a shorty.
The power play was the turning point in the game because I thought they played
in the
pretty.
First.
Yeah, outside of the wide open breakaway on the first possession of the game for the Bruins, I thought the Leafs were pretty good in terms of they earned that penalty. It feels like. And then they get every bit of momentum off of that power play, and they go up 2, and they never look back. So
it was really strange when Marner turned the power. He just made a bad play on that one, and then he didn't skate back. I think he thought Samson or Wall was going to come out of the net to play it, maybe. But there's no urgency from anyone to get back.
Is this the
very
JVR?
It didn't end in a goal. It was just the very first PK where they gave up 3 chances.
Leafs are 0 for 14 on the power play in their 6 consecutive losses to the Bruins. I think that might even speak to a guy like Brad Marchand, who I think will go down in history as one of the better penalty killers in our game.
Dangerous, yeah.
He's just so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's not the same guy that he was. He's obviously gone down in terms of his production and I don't even think he's as noticeable as he has been in years past.
He's been with Patrice Bergeron all these years.
But he still has such a good impact on the game. He's a responsible player. Like you said, he's a great penalty killer. I really do think that the Leafs have made strides, and I don't want this to be too negative because I do see your side of the story. But when you see the way it looks last night, and it's just the same old story against the same old team that you're going to play in the same old first round of the playoffs, that's where you start to panic a little bit as a fan.
Did anyone have any Wall thoughts? Do you blame Wall at all for the outcome last night, or?
No, I don't think so.
No.
Still been off for a very long time. 9 weeks, 2 months and what? 2 weeks?
You okay with them starting him?
I certainly had to feel like Samsonov this time yesterday. I said Samsonov and then Wall. Now what do you do? Now you're going to go back to Boston. You're going back to Wall after what we assume Samsonov's going to start tomorrow night against Buffalo.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are that I think it's fantasy to pretend that if we just, the less we play this guy, don't show him to Boston, whatever. I think he needs to play, and he needs to play a good team and get reps and, be in big games against good teams. And what's it going to feel like? So I go back to Wall against Boston.
It's not on the lineup here, but we do have a clip from Keefe on Joseph Wall, Derek there. I think it's clip 5.
I thought he was fine. 4's too many. But like I said, they defended their net a lot better than we defended ours here tonight. The quality of chance I thought that we gave up was a little more challenging than theirs. I would say the exception of maybe, like I gave that example in the third goal. We just had a great chance. Their goalie gets a glove on it, and then we give one up, and right after, and it goes in our net. the exception of that, I thought Joseph battled, and we got to get him going. We got to get him more games before we really start critiquing him. But I don't think he certainly was not an issue for us tonight.
They're just going to have to work him in and pick his spots, but he's not going to play 4 in a row. It doesn't appear like that's going to happen between now and the end of the regular season.
No.
So, would you go back to him Wednesday and then go Samsonov Thursday, Saturday?
That's what you like, right?
Yeah, that's what I like. But, it's just, I don't like showing him to Boston twice, in my opinion.
Yeah, to me, it's not like a pitcher, though. I don't feel like he does anything unique to goaltending that they're going to be like, aha, we figured out his.
Yeah, I know, but in all probability, are we looking at Toronto and Boston in the first round?
Yeah, right now it's the odds-on favorite.
Do you envision Joe Wall starting in Boston, game 1, and then having 2 losses in a week in the back of his mind? Is irrelevant by then.
I don't know. I don't think it's. I do think it's relevant. It's relevant for sure, but I don't think that disqualifies him in any way. Do you think that Boston now is like, do we want to show him Swayman twice in a row? They trust this guy's better than the opposition, and he's going to get his saves. And
can we go just
maybe gets a win, feels good about himself.
Do you have any more on the goaltending? Because I just wanted to go kind of back to the Bruins penalty kill against the Leafs.
No, I'm good.
But why does it seem that they just own the Leafs power play? Is that they're moving it too slow? I don't know what it is. It just doesn't feel like a good stylistic matchup for the Leafs. I know they had one pulled off the line there, but it felt like that was really their only chance.
Scramble play,
it's a stylistic matchup that doesn't fit my eye.
I hate to do this, but no, it might be still Morgan Riley.
Yeah.
I don't know the numbers. Was the power play on fire without him, and then he comes back?
We're a
and
Riley-loving show. We've established we love him, but no one's saying he's a PP1 wizard. I don't know if he's in the top half of the league of guys who are power play D-men.
So is it because he's either looking too much for Austin, or factor in that he doesn't have a threat for a shot, that he's not making decisions fast enough, that teams are able to read better with him back there? You got to go back to the thought, guys, that for whatever reason, Brad Treliving and Brendan Shanahan thought that they needed Klingberg more than anything for a power play option.
Yeah.
You didn't get it, and there was no plan B. It was let's just go back to Morgan Riley.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering that, if you've kind of showed your cards a little bit to go out there and get Klingberg, when really he's just been on the downside of his career for like the last 2 years. But you had the one thing hanging was that he could shoot a puck.
Yeah.
And he could come in and help Morgan on a power play.
And he had moments when he played early in the year on the power play where you're like, okay, I get it. The way he snapped it around, his decision-making at the top.
Yeah, it was the one thing. It was like, oh, yeah.
That was the only thing.
But then you lose him, and then you're like, do you try again, or do you just revert back to what you thought wasn't working great to begin with?
What was their power play in playoffs last year? I don't remember their percentage. I know it wasn't great against Florida, right? But it was good against Tampa.
Yeah, it was.
It was successful against the Lightning, and that helped them through. I think you just say, gosh, I hope we get that version of it again, and encourage Morgan, I think, to do what he does quickly, make decisions quickly, and shoot it when there's a lane.
There has to be somebody that they're searching for between now and Friday that can, again, I'm not saying replace Morgan Riley on the power play, but you can have a second option as a point guy.
What do you mean? Chychrun. Who are you talking about?
Well, there's always the last little while on Chychrun as a guy that the Leafs have shown interest.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any time, to be honest with you, to pull that off.
You need 10 minutes to make a phone call.
Okay. I'll agree with you. You're right. I'm wrong. Now, Left-handed shot. Does that bother you? He's not right.
So much.
He's not right.
Yeah.
Is that enough to squash the thought of Chychrun?
No, it's not enough to squash it. I'm thinking about it. It's so funny, Kip. Like, seeing names out there that fit what the Leafs are after. David Savard, right? Big right shot guy who kills penalty. Their penalty kill stinks too.
But that's less likely to happen now because you got Liljegren.
Is it less likely to happen
I think
now?
so.
Yeah?
I do think so.
I mean, let's be clear. Their penalty kill is a much bigger problem than their power play in the big picture. They're in the bottom third of the NHL in penalty killing.
Yeah.
And
I mean, you spent.
Does that lend towards maybe getting, I'll throw the name out, Nick Dowd from Washington Capitals? Has a feel of a centerman,
I'm listening.
PK guy, more depth.
Yeah, I'd be into that. That helps. That helps, right? We're trying to get 1% better at the fringes at some point. It's not a terrible suggestion.
Bigger picture
what about
on the back end?
Yeah, what about this thing everyone's talking about, Parayko?
Colton Parayko, St. Louis Blues. The thing that scares me the most on Colton Parayko, guys, if I'm not mistaken, 6 more years at $6.5 million, Sammy?
He's making 6.2 until the year 29,
Okay,
30.
6.2.
We'll be flying cars by then.
Like,
We'll still be on the air by then for sure.
Yeah, what,
and
Sportsnet's got a
will
6-year
he
deal with us?
will he ever hit the level that he had when they beat the Boston Bruins to win the Stanley Cup? Will you ever get that Colton Parayko left? And there are back issues.
He's 30. So you're getting him age 30 to 36. The comparable...
Turning 31 this year.
Is he?
Yeah.
The thing I mentioned to Sam when we brought this up briefly before the show is it reminds me of the Oliver Ekman-Larsson contract, where it's really long on a guy you liked, and he had a couple down years, and you said, boy, but if he becomes the guy he was before, we've got a good one, and the organization is going, we'll give him to you for next to nothing. Just take him, and then you're getting a buyout type player in a few years. I worry about that.
But it's been a hot conversation. Guys been texting me about it. I've been getting a lot of messages from my friends. I see it on X, see it on Instagram. Like, do you think they're interested in Parayko? Is that somewhere they actually would go? You do?
Well, listen, there's a big difference in showing interest and actually
Yeah, of course.
getting close.
Yeah.
I just don't know if they'd be willing to completely take that contract off their hands.
Well, I mean, no one's doing retention on a 6-year deal, right? You're wearing it entirely. So
I cannot see
San Jose did it on 4 for Carlson.
I can't see Doug Armstrong
Yes.
keeping any salary off of that.
I can't see
And
giving
he historically doesn't do that. He doesn't like that.
Yeah, I
He
can't
doesn't like to
see
retain?
giving
Doesn't
up
like to
anything
retain.
for that Parayko contract. Like if St. Louis is like, we want to unload this deal, we'll take TJ Brodie off your hands, so you guys can make the cap fit this year. You take Parayko, 1 for 1. All of a sudden, you make it. You got your fit is better, right? You've got a right shot guy. You like it in the short term. You really worry about how that ages.
I'm not sure St. Louis is in the we'd love to just give him away either.
No?
I don't think that they're willing
don't
to
hate
give
the
him
contract,
away.
no.
I mean, he's a massive right-hand shot defenseman that skates beautifully and initiates offense. And,
Yeah.
he's not, he's not
The
a
contract's
bum.
not that bad.
No,
Yeah.
it's just you worry about what it's going to look like at the end. But that's a guy out of anyone that's out there now that you could legitimately picture pairing with Morgan Riley and being like, that guy can play 20 minutes, 24 minutes in a playoff series, right? There's no one else out there. Like, I'm worried they're going to play Liljegren with him the whole time.
You should be.
Yeah.
You should be very worried.
Which you put
90%
I haven't
chance
hated Liljegren.
Liljegren was good.
Yeah,
2
but-
games I like him.
I'll be honest, I've not watched Colton Parayko remotely close enough to tell you if he can still play like he did 4 years ago.
I know that I've watched, I don't know, a half dozen Blues games this year and couldn't tell you anything he's done, which, that might be good, that might be bad, but he's never noteworthy.
Some of the fancier stats that I've seen on my X today seem to lend to him still being pretty good.
They
but
like him.
They do like him. So that's the only one for me, but it's such a huge risk. That contract is just such a massive risk.
Okay, where do you guys want to go? You want to stay on the D with Timothy
We
Liljegren?
might as well address it.
I do, yeah.
What's going on?
Do you want to go to Sheldon first, or you want to?
Yeah, let's go to Sheldon.
Okay, let's hear his thoughts.
Just he's got to dust himself off and get ready for the next game. We got 4 games in 6 nights here this week, and we're right back at it tomorrow. There's no time for anything other than preparing for the next one. We've given him a great opportunity here, one that we thought he was building some positive momentum and doing well. And you take a step back or slip a little bit, you just got to be confident in the good things that you've done.
Be confident after that quote.
Can we get the start of that as a drop, please, Derek?
No. The one that got me was the one after he sighed. Right?
Okay, can we get it again?
Go.
He's got to dust himself off.
That's it. That's the money shot right there. Just dust himself off.
What does that mean?
That's like after.
It means get a dust buster.
He
needs a dust buster. He
lying
needs
in a
Black
pool of his
Decker
own blood and just going, how'd he do in the fight? I hope he does better in the next one.
Dust yourself off.
He was terrible. Terrible. He was really good for a stretch of games, and then he missed a couple for an absence that no one will tell us what happened or what the injury was. And boy, he stood beside people shooting it in the net all night last night. The one, was it which one?
The fourth.
The fourth goal, where it's a 3-on-3, and he has a guy, and he just decides to watch the guy behind the net, and his guy just shoots it in the net. It was like, what do you think your role is here? He is so confounding to me. And I've heard people say, like, when you have these guys who make these brain farts, at least they're usually in players that have these, like, offensive bursts where you're like, ooh, what a trade-off.
Like Phaneuf or Gardner or Jake McCabe even on the Leafs now, where it's like, I'm okay with some of these things because he give you this thing. Liljegren, what does he give me to make that worth it?
Yeah. Like,
what is it?
You get okay and then that.
It's not offense. It's not defense.
No.
So what is it?
He's Goldilocks.
He's the opposite of Goldilocks.
It's the opposite of Goldilocks. He's just looking for something that's just right.
Yeah, he is, and it hasn't been. So I don't know. I don't know what that means for playoffs for him. It's one game, but it's really funny that Keefe was asked about him. He was like, "Next game, we'll hope he's better in the next one."
But it's just the inconsistencies will kill you if you're Keefe.
But he can't start doing this March 5th. If you're going to be a guy, they go into the deadline saying, okay, he's one of our 6.
But
can't look like that.
I mean, would anybody around here be offended if he wasn't part of the 6?
No. I have said recently that I think he will be, but that's due to a lack of options. Now you have Lyubushkin, you have another right shot guy. If they get another right shot guy, all of a sudden you go, okay, one guy can play his offside. Maybe Liljegren's out, but maybe Chychrun.
Yeah, I
know who's left.
To me, we talked about it a little bit before the show, but the Sandin thing last year is a option for me. Not that they're going to get a first-round pick for Liljegren, but like just trading him for another guy, for just a different person.
You cannot give up a right-handed D right now.
Okay.
You can't. You can't.
Sam's point, maybe that has massive value.
Well, unless if you got a couple of cards up your sleeve, with 1 or 2 coming back, okay, I get it.
Right.
But what does that mean? You're getting rid of Liljegren and you're inviting Dumba to the party. Nick Jensen.
Sure. Honestly, maybe I'm just too close to it, and I watch him every night. And maybe Dumba and Jensen are worse, but
guys, we've
been talking about this we've had the same conversation with the same player for 4 years in a row.
Like, look at the names we're throwing out.
I know. Yeah, I know.
But I'm just sick of having the conversation all the time.
Yeah.
I'd rather him just, I don't want to have the convo every day.
I feel like this is like a relationship lecture where we've talked about this.
What are we doing here? Isn't there a Seinfeld episode here? What are we doing here? We're not men.
It's just like, I talk about the Leafs 20 hours a week, and it's like 4 of them. It's like, well, Liljegren again. I'm like, can we just? How can I have a
let's complain about someone else.
All right. Well,
let's take a break.
We're going to take a break, and then we'll come back,
complain more.
JB, and you'll complain more. We got thoughts on Tavares' line.
Oh, we had one on Keefe on the Bruins PK owning the Leafs. We didn't play.
Hey, buddy, we're not going anywhere.
Okay.
We got time.
We got time. All right. More of JB complaining after the break. You're listening and watching Real Kyper and Bourne. We're back. Real Kyper and Bourne on the Leaf edition of our show. So, where do you want to go, JB? We got a few different clips here. We just touched on Liljegren, Domi line, or Tavares. Take a pick.
Let's start positive.
Okay, Tavares. So last night, watching that line, I was going to tweet a half negative thing about Tavares, how he takes the most long distance unscreened wrist shots in the NHL, and it was meant to be critical. And then he took an unscreened long distance wrist shot and he ripped it top corner.
Great shot. Love that high blocker.
Yeah.
Nice shot.
Very Johnny T type goal. But I love that line. Still love it. Still feel very good about it. Did last night do anything to change your opinion?
No. Clearly, if there's going to be any offense there, it's Tavares shooting the puck.
I think it's everyone just shooting the puck. Like, they're going to have to be a rebound.
They're passing.
Yeah. Get to the blue paint, shoot it to the net.
Listen, I still have some issues overall with the Leafs not being a below average passing team.
I dare anyone to deny that. I mean, Järnkrok's a shooter first, McMahon's a shooter first, Tavares a shooter first, Willie's a shooter first, Matthews a shooter first. I mean, it's a long list of guys that are...
Bertuzzi and Domi will pass it.
They will.
Yeah.
Is that enough?
Nope. Not even close.
And Domi only passes.
Yeah,
Every time he gets it and he has to shoot,
he's like
shocked.
Yeah, I know.
It's
like pulling teeth to get him to shoot the puck. And you wish that would kind of rub off on a few others. But just to go back to your question, as long as JT has his legs and his energy, I think he can still be very effective.
Yeah.
It's just there's some guys that are okay still if they lose 5% of their skating. He's not one of them.
No.
And if he can somehow keep his energy going, his legs, we can tell when JT has fresh legs.
Yeah.
He's a much different player.
For sure. I do feel like, having him farther down the lineup gives you those moments of, hey, we got one from the bottom six, if you want to call his line that. Like, he'll be able to provide a spark here and there because he can finish, right? And he gets to the dangerous areas. Järnkrok shoots it there. McMahon has good speed and all that. Again, I really like the line. Why don't we listen? Do we have something on the Tavares line here?
We do.
Clip 4. Why don't we have a listen to that on them?
Bobby had a little bit of a dip in his game, but it's come back up here, and Järnkrok has come in fresh and has given the group a boost. And John has just played extremely well. I think he's played a good, honest game and waited for his opportunities, but also really pushed things on offense. It was good to see him get another goal here tonight. But, I thought the other night against New York, he gets one that goes off his body, but like that's the kind of goal that he earned and his line earned by just being relentless on the puck. And there's, I guess if there's one trait of that line that you like, it's how relentless they are. They hound the puck. Arnie hounds the puck. John hounds the puck. Bobby McMahon is really doing that well. So, yeah, to that end, you like those elements.
And again, I don't deny any of that for any second, but I just saw a Boston Bruin team that shared and passed the puck to each other better than the Leafs. And somehow if they can find a way to still hound and shoot at the right time. But there's so many times when even JT and Austin at times just they shoot just for the sake of shooting. Like, and if it's not there, hold on to it, turn, cycle, have support, keep the play alive, not be a one and done. Yeah. And then it's out of your zone.
It's, for me, I would rather a team that overshoots than overpasses. And, they are the number one team in the NHL at creating goals. I think they're first or maybe they're second now in goals for per game. Like, they create a ton of offense doing it that way. So I totally know what you're saying. I think if they pass the puck more, they could prolong ozone possessions, wear down and have to defend less. So right now it feels like it's like we take our shot, you get yours.
When it works, it's great.
Yeah.
But when it doesn't work,
it's a little too chance tradey, I guess. It would be the criticism, even though it creates a lot of offense. But for this line in particular, I like the word hounds.
But it does go into, it does paint a picture a little bit of how they've been over the last few years. And that is, let's exchange chances. And we like our chances when the night's over that we'll just have 1 or 2 or 3 more goals than you.
Yeah. They've said that.
It lends to the details on defense for me.
I can't believe how much I believe in Bobby McMahon as just a guy, though.
Yeah, it's just someone to get in on the forecheck, get pucks back.
As a player on the team.
Yeah.
He was a guy that was a healthy scratch and then got into the lineup because 2 guys were sick, and he scored a hat trick, and he's just been a NHL contributor ever since.
Can I tell you the funniest thing?
It's so weird.
Yeah. So my son is 7 and not a hockey fan, does not care all that much, but he started to watch about halfway through this season. He started to sit with me and watch a bit of the Leafs game. Favorite player, Bobby McMahon. And since he's been watching McMahon, all he does is shoot it in the net. He's on the puck.
Is this Glenn Anderson dropping the shoulder and going to the net? Like, who is this guy?
He thinks he's an awesome player. I'm like, yeah, I guess I see it. If you've only watched the last 20 games, you'd think this guy's an all-star. He's been very good. So
no, I think for me, he's just propelled himself from a bubble guy in the playoffs into a lock in the lineup for the playoffs.
Yeah.
So
interesting. Do you guys think Gregor's been out too long? Like, I know Ryan Reeves has been better, but Gregor was a player on this team here, and now how long has it been since he played?
Just
2 weeks?
A forgotten guy.
Early in the year with his speed, he was getting chances and blowing wide. And I remember I was clamoring to get him a look in the, I think with Marner and Matthews, I was saying,
he did get it.
Give him a top 6 go. He was really effective.
He did get it.
2 weeks, a long time to tell a guy, sorry, we can't take out Ryan Reeves for a night.
Oh, and now you start reading, you start reading some stuff out there. It's like, how do the Leafs make cap space while you waive Gregor? And I'm like,
wait.
Didn't you invest 4 months into this guy just to say we don't like him anymore?
Like, he's
is that what's going on?
25 or 26. He's got hundreds of NHL games.
You guys, if they're going to waive him and bring in another player who's better, and that's part of it, fine. I like him. He's fast. But he didn't score in 3 calendar months. He's lost his position to Ryan Reeves.
And you needed to discover that now that he wasn't going to score, or come on. That's what you scout guys
if you brought
for.
him to score, you certainly didn't put him in a position to do it.
Yeah.
If you brought him to not score and to do other things, I mean, he killed and he forechecked.
I just don't understand the part where you invest all this time and then just come to the conclusion that he can't score, so we're going to get rid of him and we're going to go to what? What do you think's coming in to replace him?
You know how he might get back in? Keefe didn't like your boy Homie last night, I don't think.
He had a long chat with him after practice today. They talked about it. Did you want to talk about the Domi line? Because
yes. Before
we talk about the fourth line more, the second line has been a bit of an issue. And clip 7, he talked about it at length today.
Well, we just think that the offensive skills of the line, the characteristics, make up a line that can be effective. And then it also, has effects on the rest of the lineup, right? I mean, our ability to have John on a different line sets us up well, and we're seeing some of the positive things that are coming out of that. So it's all connected, So for those reasons, you want to stay with it, and the team has played well, and the team has had good results. So you want to be able to continue to work with it and let it breathe a little bit, but obviously monitoring at the same time.
Okay, so we're not making any changes anytime soon. That's what you got out of that.
I got out of that. We like the third line or the Tavares line. We like our top line. What else do you want us to do with that group, basically?
Yeah.
They're getting caved in, though.
Every single night.
Well,
again last night.
Yeah. I put the onus on Nylander to take it up a notch here.
That seems charitable to Max
I just
Domi
think
to me.
he's, I think overall Max has been really good. And I don't know whether or not you just want to turn him into a Selke, nominee. That's not happening.
No, but it's become like an awkward conversation, the Max Domi thing, because he is beloved in Toronto, not just because of his dad. He's an awesome personality, like his Twitter videos
and he's played well.
And he's played well. He makes
He's
some
created.
plays. He's exciting. He scores that winner on his birthday. Like, he's a part of this, and people love him.
I thought you didn't care about birthday stuff.
Touche. And so there's a lot of reasons that everyone wants it to work. And I include myself in that. I want it to work. It's a little like the Liljegren thing for me, though, where it's like, it doesn't work. It hasn't, 10 straight games when his line is on the ice, the other team gets more chances than the Leafs do. I don't know how many points he has this year. I can find that out pretty quick. But it's not a ton, right? Maybe it's 30?
It's I think more than that.
Is it? Whatever it is. But yeah, so some offense, but not a ton. And then to balance that out, he's at 31 points, 7 goals.
Okay.
I know he's not on the power play, so that definitely has some effect on it. But I don't think he skates a ton. He is fast, but I don't think he skates a ton.
Well, he's faster than
he's very
JT.
Fast. He's very fast,
right?
But he doesn't skate until it's like time to go. It's not a lot of stops and starts. I'm not trying to turn him into a Selke guy. I just don't know.
What is the answer at the trade deadline to bring somebody else in and then have him more of a utility guy that can move up and down the lineup?
I still like him I would like him to play with the best players. Like, to me, if you're going to put him somewhere for the playoffs, you put him in Nyes' spot.
Well, I think you can't go 82 games without giving him a look with Marner and Matthews. Yeah. He's one of the only guys who thinks the game offensively at that elite level and has the hands to set them up and make plays.
And Nyes has been better.
Nyes has been better, but it's still a big ask for...
It's crazy he gets no points there.
College guys coming in and ends up your number one left winger to try to contend for Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
I get it if you want to show him, give him some sample sizes of what you can be one day, but it's just too big of an ask for Nyes.
And so, I want to be clear that I think Domi is a good player, and I think they should use him in that spot and just see if that's the spot for him.
I'd like to see him with Matthews and Marner.
Let's just see. Matthews blocks more shots than anyone in the NHL. But Marner gets Selke.
He's not a big
that
body.
Line can defend. He's not.
He's not a big body, and he cannot do what Nyes does with some work on the walls.
Yep, that's fair.
Right?
It's just going to be a different look. And
it is a different look.
And then you can move Nyes down and he can help out in the lineup somewhere else if you bring in another center. I don't know.
You're not spending Domi's money any better than Max Domi. Like, he has value. I don't know. I struggle to see where he should go. And I don't know.
And him and Willie do bring out the worst in each other on a line. It just feels like they both, he got benched for it on Saturday. Just a lot of flying it by. And then standing still in the defensive zone.
Willie also took the wrong guy last night on a goal against again. So to your point about Willie, I
think he's got to work harder and he's got to work smarter and he's got to show that him and Pasternak should be equal last night, right? I'm making more money than you. I should be as good or better.
He's next tier, right? Like, he is a 50-plus goal scorer who last night led the game with vision and passing.
I didn't want to do this today.
Yeah, you did.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I mentioned that I didn't want to do it, but you brought it up, and it's like, Willie makes more than pass, eh?
Yes. Yeah. And it's upon you every night you go up against a guy like that. You got to be insecure.
I like that.
In feeling like I have to measure, I have to prove, right? That's the one time that you need to be insecure, that I can't have people thinking I'm not as good as him. Yeah. So I'm going to outplay him tonight. I'm going to outwork him. I'm going to just do everything I can. And last night was a missed opportunity. Now, here's the good news. Willie, you get another crack at it Thursday night in a tougher environment. have the us against the world. Nobody loves me. Nobody thinks I'm as good as Pasternak. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to show them.
The question is, does he play hard enough on Wednesday to be in the lineup Thursday? It's a huge trap game, right?
Oh, there's never been a bigger look-ahead
lost
game.
to the Bruins. They're on your mind. We get them again later this week. This is division. If we win that, we're right. And then Buffalo's
The
just
Leafs
going to
have
be
had
like...
great success against the Sabres. I don't think they lost 9-3 last game, did they?
Was it 9-3? The Sabres
Was it
might
that
be-
bad?
It was
I
9-3.
think we probably worked the game. The
It was
Sabres might
9-3.
win by another touchdown.
It was 9-3.
Well, the good news is
Honestly, they
you're working Wednesday night.
I
It's our
am.
Wednesday night Scotiabank game of the week, and you're going to be on the panel, so you'll tell us.
I'll be paying close attention, boys. I'll have all the answers for you.
Yeah.
Speaking of the division,
Oh, well,
go ahead.
could I just
Where were you
mention
going?
that Simmer said something last night that really jumped out to me about how Pasternak's the only guy that kind of reminds him of Kucherov on the power play.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really well said. Just the way he rolls the wrists, and it looks like he's going to shoot, but he passes and he passes. He looks like he's going to shoot. Like it just
He's so elite.
he rolls the wrists like
Yeah, there's no tell.
there's no tell. There's absolutely no tell.
You know, Marner might be the best passer in the league,
Yeah.
or one of them.
Yeah.
Matthews is the best shooter in the league, but Kucherov and Pasternak
But
can
here's
do
the
both.
problem: is that Marner's predictability and Matthews is far higher than
That's what I'm
Pasternak's
saying.
and
These two guys
Kucherov's.
can do both, so it's easier to game plan against the Leafs because you're like, I'll tell you what he's going to do,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you what he's going to do. Kuch and Pasta, I got no idea.
No idea.
You know, we're talking about the Leafs power play, which is, again, one of the best in the NHL, like second in the league or something. They're very, very good. But, you know, when you're against the best PKs in the league, deception is valuable.
Yeah, the division.
Yes. So last night, the Leafs lose, Boston wins, Florida gets
Yeah.
another win. You know, like they
Who'd
just,
Florida beat?
the Rangers.
Oh, on home ice.
Did you see that Barkov goal?
Oh my
Or
God.
assist?
That's one of the nicest hockey highlights I've ever seen.
I don't think I've seen a better effort on a pass in my
falling
life.
touch to get it back to his own forehand
Yeah.
to make the pass is the touch for me,
Yeah.
not even the hacky sack one.
Yeah, I wonder why Reinhardt scored so many.
I know, Reinhardt.
I could have tapped that baby in.
Yeah, Huberto's watching Reinhardt going, I remember the days.
Like that's when you play in Florida, like, you don't get recognized as one of the best centermen in the league.
No.
And how are we not talking about Barkov as being just
But no, we do this.
the best,
No, we do this.
the best 200-foot guy in the league?
He's been the proverbial most underrated guy in the league for 10 years. He's not underrated. He's properly rated. Everybody says he's great. He's great.
But
He
nobody
plays for a
talks
great
about
team.
him.
No, because he plays for the Panthers.
Okay,
And no
thank
one-
you.
But I think every hockey fan, if you're like, hey, Sasha Barkov, really good, they'd be like, who is that? I've never heard of him. It's not like that. He's not underrated. He's properly rated. Everyone thinks he's elite.
Yeah.
Shout out Books for that draft.
Yes, absolutely.
Take him ahead
Is
of
anybody
Drouin.
going to stop Florida? Like, what do you do?
I don't know. They're pretty damn good, man.
They're good.
They're really good.
Like something you need injuries.
You need Bob to be,
Every team in the
regress
East
2 years.
needs Florida to get hurt.
yeah. Why don't we?
I don't know how
listen to this
else
Keith
they
quote?
stop.
I mean, it's not great.
No, good.
No,
Okay, forget it.
How else do you stop the Florida Panthers?
I don't know. Just let Nick Cousins take 300 penalties or something. I don't know.
See him again last night? This guy ends up on the ice every game, flopping around.
Install handles in his jersey to pick him
And
up
yet,
every
you know
night.
what? They keep winning.
Yeah.
They don't mind helping, either coming in to help them or defend them. They're just a tight team.
Who scored the OT winner against the Leafs last year?
I didn't notice.
Was it Cousins?
No comments or questions at this time.
Oh, all right.
All right. It's a quick hour.
We done already?
We don't even have a guest to thank in that hour.
Who
That's
do
how much we had to
who we got
talk
coming
about.
up?
Who do we have to talk
Lots.
about
Lots.
next? Brian Lawton, former
Lots
NHL
to
player,
talk
agent,
about.
general manager, has done it all. Trade deadline coming up. We'll get into what he expects between Friday. All right. Take a quick break. Go get a drink. Grab a towel. Wipe off. And we're back. Welcome in to our national edition of Real Kyper and Bourne. The Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee for the next hour. In a couple of minutes, we'll welcome in Brian Lawton, former NHL general manager, executive, broadcaster, agent. He's done a ton. And as a reminder, this hour of Real Kyper and Bourne is brought to you by Bet365. All right, between now and, I guess, 3 p.m. on Friday.
70 hours from now.
And a reminder that Sportsnet's going to be all over the coverage starting 10 a.m. Eastern.
They're going to let us do a
10
couple
p.m.
words.
I think we're going to do a hit, obviously, on Friday as well. And then just note, on Friday, we will be on our show, but push back
Listen close here.
1 hour.
Yes.
So instead of 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern, we will be 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern.
We have time for all the trades to come in, to do our research, and give you the takiest of takes.
Okay, let me get your vibe, at least going into this Tuesday on this week. Because for me, and I've done a lot of these, it's really quiet.
Except for this one tweet. This one tweet's not quiet. Chris Johnston tweeted, with the Canucks believed to be among those pursuing Jake Guentzel. Word is they've had discussions about potentially flipping Elias Lindholm to the Bruins as part of the machinations to make it happen. Nothing concrete in place at this time. Still lots of moving parts.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
The Bruins have added a different Lindholm before, and that went very well for them in Old Hampus.
So what does the signing of Pettersson do for the future of Lindholm?
Oh, so do you think it was like he was like the Pettersson insurance? Now they got the Pettersson. They don't need the insurance policy anymore.
Correct.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
So, and listen, they got an asset. They got a nice asset out of Lindholm. But where's the money to sign him?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
you got to pay other guys on the team, right?
Yes. So
Besser coming up.
Do you now
Hronek.
Do you flip him again?
Wow.
And create something, or do you want to take him into the playoffs and just rent him?
Ooh, boy.
No,
I mean, that is
no.
Does
that make sense to you guys?
It does make sense to me, but to me, the Vancouver Canucks are trying to win the Stanley Cup here.
Mm-hmm.
Do they think Guentzel is more valuable to them than Lindholm? Which I guess, to me, he's a winger who scores goals. Like Lindholm's like a two-way defensive PK. You were saying, Kip, that like maybe he hasn't been quite as they hoped. Not to put words in your mouth.
I think I'm not sure they're convinced on him being there long term, right? So I've talked to a couple of different people, and sometimes the sense is with Lindholm, the work ethic isn't there all the time. So I don't know where they stand on Lindholm. They love him, or did they just use him as an asset?
And now I wonder, for that to make sense for Pittsburgh, what has to go from Boston to Pittsburgh? Presumably, since Boston's trying to win a cup, it's no one off their roster. It's likely picks and prospects.
Yeah, I think that they'd also like something off their roster. Now, I don't think Jake DeBrusk is long for the Boston Bruins, but they're also in a predicament as well, much like
lose him for nothing if you don't.
Lose him for nothing. It's never been a great marriage.
No, it hasn't.
But we watched Jake DeBrusk look like a very good hockey player last night against the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Boy,
like,
he
was good.
He shot that puck into the spot.
He was good.
Last night, yeah.
Mm.
But with Jake, Boston's biggest complaint is you're not sure when you're going to get the good Jake.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Do you, if you're Boston and you envision something going on with Vancouver and Pittsburgh, does Boston move DeBrusk and DeBrusk walks into a new contract with Pittsburgh, and instead of paying Guentzel $9 or $10 million, you pay Jake DeBrusk $6.
$6.
5.5. Is he?
I don't know.
Who'd you rather have, DeBrusk or Bertuzzi?
I mean, probably Bertuzzi, but I get your point that they're in.
But they're
in a tier.
When they're on, when those guys are on, that's the going rate for Bertuzzi's and Jake DeBrusk's is probably $5.5, $6 million. Whatever it is, it's going to be a fraction of the cost of signing Guentzel.
If you're Sidney Crosby and you're like, oh, sick, we got slightly worse. Like, someone did tweet, I think it was DuPont or someone tweeted.
But you're also
that this will make Sid happy.
To get Guentzel, it's going to take a roster player, probably a blue chip prospect, and a first rounder.
A roster player, a blue chip prospect, and a first rounder.
That's if I guess DeBrusk ends up signing somewhere.
Yeah.
If it's a rental, it's hard to get three pieces off of a rental.
Didn't realize DeBrusk is only 27.
DeBrusk is going to sign 6 years minimum.
Think so?
Yeah.
Boy, he's only got 30 points this year. Yeah. I mean, he had 50 last year with 27 goals. So, he's...
On behalf of Leafs Nation, just don't do that.
Don't do any of these things.
Don't give Lindholm to the Bruins because I feel like that'd be a really good fit there. I do.
It would be a good fit for Boston, for sure. But this is the big price. That would come with an extension for sure, right? Like if they traded for Elias Lindholm, he'd be locked up.
I don't know how you would trade for Lindholm
first
and still see him walk out the door.
Yeah. But it seems like Guentzel would be more of a pure rental. Doesn't sound like anyone is talking extensions, even the Canucks with Guentzel.
If Vancouver's trading for Guentzel, I don't see it as a rental.
You don't, eh?
I don't think so.
Okay.
And I don't, with all due respect to the amazing season they have, you gotta be careful of overplaying your hand to win it all.
And as you're sort of turning the corner now, you don't want to, go all in and find out that you don't have the guys you like, or whatever.
And it costs you a first rounder, and it costs you a nice prospect. I think, in all honesty, I think the price would be too expensive for Vancouver, and I did have a couple of rumblings that Van is cool on Guentzel. Last I heard, it got too expensive for Vancouver. Guentzel. All right, let's bring in Brian Lawton, former NHL player, agent, general manager. He's done it all. Lots, how are you, man? Thanks for joining us.
Doing fantastic. Thank you. And this is where you find out what people are really at in the negotiations. As I was listening to you talk about Guentzel, you find out what people are really willing to do. Has Kyle Dubas officially moved on from Jake Guentzel? Is he committed to trading him? And if he is he willing to drop his price significantly? It'll be really fun to watch how that one plays out.
So funny you should say that, because we do know that there were some attempts to sign Guentzel again. So there is some of what Kyle Dubas is doing that lends the suggestion that I still got to sell tickets, Lots. I still got to sell hope. And I still got Sidney Crosby, oh, by the way, still scoring 80 and 90 points. So Sid's not going anywhere anytime soon, the way I see it. In a perfect world, he wants to go the Mario Lemieux way. Start with one team, end my career with one team. But he may still be around for 3 or 4 more years. Wouldn't it be in the interest of Kyle Dubas to go and revisit signing Jake Guentzel?
I definitely think it would, but I felt like the die was cast when they went out and got Erik Karlsson. It just, when that move was made, I felt like there's no way that Jake would continue on. I know Jake, he's a great kid. I've never asked him about his situation. But I know he loved playing there. I also know this is his last chance at his age to really ring the bell hard. And I don't think Pittsburgh can do that. So now you're in a position where you're asking him to take a discount, but the player knows this is his last kick at the can. The team hasn't, won a playoff round in a while, and they're aging. and you just can easily see how he would end up playing somewhere else for more money and maybe in a better situation.
Yeah, that's, it's the confounding thing about this Penguins team. They had the 5th best goaltending in the NHL this season by save percentage. Crosby's been excellent. They've gotten production from most of their guys on contracts, and they're currently 10 points out of a playoff spot in early March. Like, if you're Sid and looking at this, there has to be some sort of, there's bigger questions here. You wonder, would they do something bigger, whether it be with Malkin or Carlson, or at some point in this offseason, would they try to just start over around Sid without some of those guys?
Yeah, would they? I don't think so. I don't see it. It's hard because of a lot of the restrictions. Should they? Absolutely.
Yeah.
100% they should. This is the toughest thing to do, though. Evgeny Malkin's been a great player for him. Hasn't played well this year, obviously. Not to the level that they needed him to play to execute on not turning the page, on keeping the gang together and going for it. But and they still could make it. You can't write them off, but it seems more and more remote every day, to be honest with you. And again, it's very hard to move on from guys that have given you such great service in their careers, been a great player like Malkin has for them. But the reality is, this is one of the spots where you can really get burned. And for a new guy and Kyle coming in, he went all in on Erik Karlsson. It just hasn't worked.
Top of the show, our boy Sammy here mentioned a tweet by CJ about the thought of flipping Lindholm in Vancouver. Does that coincide with the fact that they got Pettersson's contract done? What were your initial thoughts of the contract? And what about the fact that Lindholm's going to be a UFA, and can Vancouver use that towards Friday's deadline?
Certainly possible with Jimmy. Everybody knows that. I'm told that they've had discussions in Vancouver to try to extend him. It didn't go very far. And it's well within your right. If you pick up a guy and you talk to him, and what's missing in that analysis is what their analysis has been of Lindholm in Vancouver. Maybe they're not lukewarm on him. The team has not won the way they were prior to his arrival. That doesn't mean it's his fault. It could just be a run that every team is going through where they don't have that sustained excellence the way Vancouver has had certainly prior to Lindholm's arrival there. So with Jimmy Rutherford, I wouldn't write it off. Does that mean that you could maybe flip him and get Jake Guentzel? I don't think that necessarily would line up, but the concept of the most active team in the National Hockey League in the last 14 months who have been the Vancouver Canucks doing it again would not surprise me.
Lots, how much do relationships play a part in what happens at the deadline? I ask this because it seems like every trade now takes double retention, right? Where we got to incorporate this team and that team. You have to have a lot of relationships. We've talked on this show in the Leafs where it's doesn't seem like the Flames want to deal with Brad Treliving. Probably Kyle Dubas doesn't really want to deal with the Leafs. Feels like Lou Lamoriello doesn't want to deal with the Leafs. But I imagine with every GM and every team, there are these relationships of not necessarily burnt bridges, but fractured relationships. So I guess, is that a big part of being a GM, is just managing to not burn bridges so you can use as many teams as possible?
Yes, it is, quite frankly. And there's a couple of events every year where, you get together with these guys. And at least for me, when I was in Tampa, it was very important to get out, particularly with guys that I didn't know as well, and just have dinner with them one night. I had a lot of, I would say strange, but I can remember going out to dinner with Jacques Martin, who I didn't know well at that time, Francois Giguère, another guy. I would purposely try to go out of my way just to try to get to know people, because relationships are so critical in the end to getting things done. Now, what happened with the Leafs, Carolina, with salary retention recently in deals, Carolina is a very financial team. They ended up picking up a small point of this particular deal where they paid about 100. I looked at the math one day. I think it was about $170,000. They picked up a 5th-round pick. That's just something that's part of being a GM now. And in Carolina's case, I always feel like they're a little bit agnostic. They're kind of Switzerland. If they think it makes sense, they'll do it. They don't really care. Whereas other GMs, you can see in their DNA. You could look at, say, St. Louis and Detroit for some of the deals they've had going on recently with, a newer GM, obviously, and Steve. He's not brand new, but younger, so to speak, to a guy like Doug Armstrong, but they have a strong relationship through their connection, particularly with Hockey Canada. So, yes, it absolutely matters.
You were in Tampa Bay, not a huge media market, but how much does the media play in the week going into trade deadline, or at any point really, to like how much stuff is just thrown out there just to get the temperature?
I think it's kind of like living in LA and living in Anaheim. One is Mars and the other is Venus. And that's how much markets play into it. In Tampa, there isn't much of a market in terms of how the media is influencing things, whereas in Toronto, where you guys are, of course, or Edmonton or Vancouver, or some American cities, it's not particularly heavy here in Minnesota, which is considered a real strong U.S. market. It's really just Canada that's what crazy for what goes on, because they're so involved. And, quite frankly, I always thought that looked fun. I know Berkey always got a kick out of it, but it's not for everybody. Some guys would rather go the route of less is more, but it clearly does heighten everything that's going on. And it's noticeable because I've talked to GMs about it, and I've heard many comments about it. Some guys embrace it. Some guys hate it.
Oh, and some of them will say, if this gets out, it's over. It's not happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
The
that's
David
right.
Savard sweepstakes this year.
Yeah, you always kind of have that threat, but I don't know if that's real. You want people to respect what's going on. And it's not necessarily done because you don't want it to get out there in terms of media or stuff like that. You're moving, no matter what you say, Kyper, and you and I accepted this as players. You get traded, you move. I got traded on the morning of the 26th. I was supposed to be playing a night game for the Rangers, and I ended up, an afternoon game for the Rangers, and I ended up playing a night game for the Hartford Whalers. It's just part of the business. And I think GMs are conscious of that it is still people and it does matter. And those are the reasons why people want privacy. You have other guys like Lou that just wants privacy because he just wants privacy. There's nothing wrong with that, but everybody has their own style on that. Cliff Fletcher was famous for his lack of privacy on a lot of things at times, but that worked well for him, and he rolled with that and took advantage of it.
I'd heard Cliff Fletcher stories where he'd lean out into the office with all the salespeople and everyone be like, "Do we want to do Gilmore for whoever?" Is that true?
I'm certain that the legend would have grown bigger, but there are a lot of stories like that.
Yeah.
Of lots of guys throughout history who are kind of known for that. That literally, whether they were GM or even other roles, at times might step out of a meeting, and then all of a sudden something that was being discussed in a meeting was showing up on the television screens, because everybody is trying to get information on trade deadline day you can't believe. I've seen it from all sides as a player agent, in the media, and as a general manager. And everybody's essentially trying to do the same thing. You're flying a lot more blind than you would like, particularly the teams that really run their hockey operation departments very small. It's just hard to know all when you're in that position, and things tend to really become laser focused.
We're talking to Brian Lawton, former NHL player, agent, general manager. When some talk about Hanifin and the Tampa Bay Lightning, it's to the point where I'm hearing rumblings that they may have a contract extension already in place. It's just a matter of whether Tampa Bay and Calgary can come to an agreement on the actual trade. Does that make sense to you for Tampa Bay, Hanifin?
Not totally out of the question. Obviously, the Tampa Bay Lightning have no right to talk to Noah Hanifin or his representatives without consent from Calgary. That can be done, though. It's in your best interest if you know you're going to trade somebody, like we believe Calgary is with Hanifin, to go out and find somebody that can extend him. Because in theory, you should get paid more for it. Rather than selling this particular player as a rental, you're selling him as somebody that might be with the Lightning for a lot of years. But I haven't been able to validate that story the way that it's making the rounds right now. So I'm not saying it's not true, but I'm saying that I have not got any confirmation or validation that a potential extension is in place.
Did you like him,
seems to me
in Tampa?
unlikely. What's that?
Do you like him to replace Sergachev, who's been lost for the season?
I think Noah Hanifin's had an excellent year, and I think someone's going to be really fortunate that gets him. I think it's tough for Calgary. They're coming off back-to-back years where American players have pretty much made it known that they're not going to sign an extension there. First Matthew Tkachuk, obviously, and now Noah Hanifin. So that's a tough situation to deal with. But I do like Hanifin. I do think he'd play really well there. I don't see it as likely that they have the pieces or assets that they're able to part with to fulfill Calgary's needs. But maybe they're stretching themselves. We've seen that in the past with Tampa. We saw what they did with Jeannot. They took a swing. Some people would say it was a gallant effort. Other people would say it hasn't worked out very well. That's the nature of every time you step up to the plate, you're going to be judged. But I do love the people like the job that Julien Brisebois has done in Tampa in terms of not being afraid to actually do things. Because it was very frustrating as a GM, when you'd make good offers that should be hit, but they weren't because they weren't great offers and people were afraid to make deals.
Yeah. Yeah, that does seem to really hold things up. Right now, if you look at the NHL standings, we had Lou Lamoriello today come out and say that they're definitely not going to sell and that they'll likely buy. I think maybe they're 18th, 19th, or 20th in the NHL, somewhere around there right now. Every team above that is kind of the same, right? Every team, their fan base expects them to add. It's a lot of teams. So how do you feel about GMs going all in when you're one of 20 teams going all in? I know Daryl Morey said that if you have a 5% chance to win a championship, you should go all in. How does it feel this year for you, for a lot of these teams even lower down the standings?
I don't believe if you have a 5% chance, you should go all in
6,
every
7?
year. Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, your percentages aren't that far off. I'm taking it more metaphorically to mean you have a very low chance. Right. But, people just don't understand the odds of what your chances are to win. There's 16 teams. You can start from there. Yeah. It's not basketball. Nobody is a 45 to 60% chance to win.
Right.
So I'm probably taking that too rough. But my point is, you shouldn't go all in if you're 7th or 8th, trying to get into the playoffs in your conference. Yeah. It doesn't mean you can't do some things. And if they make sense long term, yes. But to go all in means you're willing to empty the guns, so to speak. The Edmonton Oilers, they should go all in. They may not be as high as they think, but when you look at their team, you can come to the analysis that they are on the precipice of being the next great team in the league. Yeah. And they are also fighting to try to keep, their star players who are expiring in a couple of years between Draisaitl and McDavid. So, there's a lot of battle going on there. There's a lot of reasons why you do it. But in general, no. Florida was an interesting example last year because, they were all in, they were all committed. It ended up working out for them in the end. And they've gone on and proven that they really have an exceptional team. But I'd say that's more unusual than usual. But it's a great job by the manager in Florida for believing in what they had and backing it up and recognizing it and never wavering, because it's hard to do those things, particularly when you're in a Canadian market, as we talked about, because there's so much scrutiny on you in these positions.
Lots. It's almost as if everybody wanted Tanev. Edmonton, Vancouver, Toronto. And then after Tanev went to Dallas, I believe that there was a certain window where the general managers just looked at their respective scouts or people around them and said, okay, what's plan B? What would plan B for you be in Edmonton? Obviously, they're going to have to move out some money. Maybe it's Cody Ceci, but they want to upgrade. Like who? Give me a name. Give me something that we haven't thought of, or maybe there just isn't anyone out there.
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, you got to look at your own roster. And in Edmonton's case, yes, Cody Ceci, I think he's making $3.25. He's in your top four. He's probably the least efficient piece of their top four. The money's not great in terms of super expensive, but at the same time, it's an area you'd look at and say, I want to upgrade that. You could say that maybe with Brett Kulak, who really plays in that third pair. He's making $2.75, got some term left. You're going to go through your roster. Fogel's a UFA this year. You're going to look at those pieces and you're going to say, what flexibility do I have first? Then you're going to flip the script and say, okay, and I'll just make something up with Edmonton. So Leon Draisaitl at times has not, hit his stride the way he has in the past. He's played less with Connor McDavid, even though he's been playing with him recently. But maybe we need a Jake Guentzel. We need one more guy that we can pair with him, and then we can have two dynamic lines, one, of course, led by McDavid and the other by Draisaitl. We don't have to play them together, even though we have other good players, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Zach Hyman. You can look at the different pieces, but you could end up on, we need one more good forward. You go out and you say, what will it take for me to get Jake Guentzel? And I really can't deplete my top four by moving Cody Ceci unless I have a replacement for him. So he's out. So can I put a package together? Am I willing to pay somebody else like Toronto was to get Lyubushkin in, which was a low deal, but are you willing to go that route? There's just so much that goes into it. This is why, in today's world, you can't just have one guy running hockey operations or two. You need a true deep staff that can evaluate all these opportunities and come up with the right answers. I happen to think Florida is doing it as well or better than anybody else right now in terms of how they're utilizing their staff, and the results are great. In Edmonton's case, it would behoove them to use everybody in the organization and come up with what they think is the best path forward. I don't think adding another forward is what they need. I actually think they need to add another top D in order for them to rise up and become the Stanley Cup champion.
So all those people in the office in Florida helped Barkov set up Reinhart for the assist of the decade?
I wouldn't say that, but they help the general manager to figure out that we should go out and get Sam Reinhart.
Oh boy!
Or you know what?
What a win!
Sam Bennett would be a really great fit for this club. Or how about if we pick up Forsling off of waivers? He might be good. And hey, what do you guys think of Brandon Montour? If you really look at the deals that Florida made, it's pretty impressive, Kipper. I
really
tip my
impressive
cap to them. Yeah,
trick is to get all the
but it makes a difference.
For sure.
What's that?
Lots great stuff as always, man. Thanks.
My pleasure, guys. Always happy to jump on, and we'll see what happens
Yeah,
this week.
we
Hopefully
certainly
it'll be
will.
Really interesting.
Yeah, thanks lots. Appreciate your time.
Brian Lawton, former NHL player, agent, general manager. Hey, he's lived it
And
all.
GQ model.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got it going right now.
I was just looking at the trade for Sam Reinhart.
Yeah.
Because I didn't remember what it was.
Buffalo.
Yeah, Buffalo. Devin Levi and a first-round pick for and they took in the 2022 draft Yuri Kulich, who has played one NHL game.
Working out well for Florida.
19 years old, though. So
Brad Treliving couldn't get a first rounder for Sam Bennett.
Yeah.
What did Florida pay?
concerning.
2 seconds?
yeah, Kipper, you have taken, a lot of heat for the Nylander thing, and we've talked about it before on the show, and people love to throw that. But they don't like to talk about the other one where you're like, they should trade Nick Robertson for Sam Bennett. And everyone's like, no, are you crazy? It's like,
I know.
God, they
'cause
should have done that.
It wasn't in a graphic board, so we can't get it tweeted
Listen,
at us 300 times.
people love the Willie Nylander.
really love that
The
one.
Willie Nylander was before he played one game.
Yes.
He sat out, and at the time, Nick Ritchie was a top 10 pick and supposed to be the next Milan Lucic.
And Brandon Montour has gone on to last year. He was top 10 in NHL ice time and affected. Anyway.
Yeah, but I just think that other one would have been really good if the Leafs had done that.
Yeah,
Would have liked that a
Robinson
lot.
for Bennett would have been
Very
Montour
good.
is one hell of a defenseman,
like a lot of money
guys.
this summer.
Yeah,
Someone's going to pay him.
he's a free agent this summer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
He
Um,
is absolutely like running the show back there for the Florida Panthers, and
of
he's
points
a
last year.
gamer.
And they seem to love him. Like I guess they just love each other regardless. They just seem like such a together group. He scored the first goal on Sunday against the Red Wings. Big Sally. They're all jumping on him. They love him. It's just like he
It's interesting.
shoots right.
It is interesting to hear Brian Lawton explain like the makeup of Florida and how they picked up all these guys and what contributors they are now, and they were
Yeah.
just like afterthoughts.
Yeah.
I mean, and that Kachuk trade was pretty good.
Pretty darn good. I got to tell you, though, in terms of activity, I like these teams that are like, let's get aggressive. Let's try to find some way to get better. Jim Rutherford, Nick Alberga had tweeted that since he's been in Vancouver, he was there, I think it was in 2021, December 2021. He's made 20 trades already.
Oh my God.
It's been like 2.5 years. Made 20 trades.
That's a crazy number.
And it's like, and all the Canucks are in first. They're aggressive. All these meek and mild GMs that don't want to lose their job for making moves. Like, hey, get
Gotta
out
give
there
him
and
credit, man.
do
Jimmy's a
some
vet.
things.
He's a vet.
He is.
He ain't afraid.
He's not afraid.
Takes the bat off his
Well,
shoulder.
Listen, I mean, they kind of held the feet to the fire of their all-star center who they were like, you know what, we'll trade you.
Yeah, Pedersen was like halfway out the door
We'll
by
trade
some
you. And then they're
accounts.
like,
and
here's a huge hometown discount.
Yeah.
It kind of worked.
It did work.
Opposite of Kyle Dubas.
Opposite.
What do you want?
Oh,
What do you want?
I really hope Kyle's family doesn't listen to the show.
All right.
Hope they don't have cable.
He says. All
That's
right.
going to break a new game time when we come
Yeah.
back.
You heard the man. More from Real Kipper and Bourne after these words. Can we start this segment? Am I interrupting you guys?
You
Yes.
had so many tweets about how great Lawton is.
Yeah. It did.
All right. I got a text from Hockey-esque.
You got a tweet from
Bedini, our
Dave
boy.
Bedini. Yeah, Dave Bedini. Gone back.
When
in
are we
shelf
getting
on him
Sammy
a few
McKee?
times.
Possible trade scenario. Loved the segment last year. So starting tomorrow, you got to give us trade scenarios.
3 fake trades, I think.
Okay, no
3
problem. Love
fake
to.
trades.
Can't wait. Leafs or everything? We'll do it in the Leafs hour.
There are 31 other teams in the
Yeah,
league
Sam.
besides the Toronto Maple
so you
Leafs.
want me to do a couple in the Leafs hour and then a national hour one?
Something ridiculous like Guentzel for Lindholm.
Okay, but what if this
for-
happens like tonight? Then my whole homework's screwed.
Find something new.
Dave Bedini, yeah, great guy.
Good homework assignment there.
Yeah,
So-
he plays Nat on Thursday mornings with me, and I've
If I ever
beat-
get the
beat-
invite, I'm going to come take
beat him
some
like a
shots.
rented mule a few times.
Just
there.
to follow up some names out there. I mean, we did mention Hannafin and the rumblings about Tampa Bay trying to get a deal done with him. The one thing, again, the prices obviously changes if he can get an extension. It's a different price for a rental than it is a guy going and signing right away. So
Yeah.
that's probably where Calgary's just trying to max out. If anything happens with Tampa Bay, it's come on.
Do you have any thoughts about Calgary and teams in general facilitating trades for guys to go where they want to go? Like it sounds like he wants to go to Florida.
Well, in many ways, he's in the driver's seat because the value changes if he decides to sign. So
I
he's
see.
dictating.
Yeah.
And the one thing I guarantee you that if he signs with Tampa, it won't look or sound anything close to what Calgary had offered. And that is based on cost of living and no state tax. So the number we had heard in Calgary that he turned down was $7.5 million. I don't even think it starts with a 7 if Tampa resigns him.
Wow.
Let's do game time quickly here.
Okay, go.
It's game time presented by Bet365. Visit the app for latest odds. Find out. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. Now, a couple good ones tonight. Like the Oilers and the Boston Bruins, JVR, his 1,000th NHL hockey game tonight.
Hey, congrats to him.
Yeah.
1,000 games.
I was just going to go to find a JVR goal tonight, as I'm trying to pull it up here quickly. A JVR goal on his, what do they call the 1,000th game? Is there like a name for it, just other than the 1,000th game?
Centennial
Yeah, so there's
times
okay,
10.
anyways.
If that would be news to me.
I thought there was like
Thousandtennial?
a name.
There's definitely a word for it.
It's called 1,000th.
Okay.
That's the word.
Overthink this, yeah.
Okay. He is plus 320 for a goal tonight in his 1,000th game. Give me a shot on that one. Maybe a little flair for the dramatic.
Pass.
Okay. How many does he have this year? 11, 12?
Yeah.
He's got a few this year.
14.
The other one I'm looking at here, this is, second straight night of me giving a pick potentially against the Florida Panthers, which is just really not a great way to make money this year in the NHL.
No.
But they're on the second half of back-to-back, going into New Jersey, who just fired their head coach, looking for a little bit of the dead cat bounce. Is that the saying?
It is,
bad
yeah.
saying. But it's the Cats they're playing against, so maybe a little bit of,
Dead
cat bounce.
Okay.
So give me the New Jersey Devils at plus 110 on home ice tonight to get a win over the Florida Panthers. They're on the second half of back-to-back. I know Bourne likes his beloved Penguins on home ice, minus a goal and a half, maybe at plus 105 or in regulation. So I know you like that one.
I do.
And the Nashville Predators, who, Bourne, Kip, would you believe me if I told you
8.
that they won 8 in a row?
8.
They've won 8 in a row.
I know.
Stunning.
They are on home ice.
I
tonight.
heard.
They're on home ice tonight against the lowly Montreal Canadiens. Give me the smoking hot Nashville Predators minus a goal and a half at plus 115.
Is this not the year of the stupidest streaks
Yeah,
in the
it's
league?
crazy.
Nashville gets 8, Seattle gets 9.
Yep.
Like, there's been some big runs from some teams.
And that was Game Time, presented by Bet365. Visit the app for latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly.
We've mentioned this name, I think, a week or 2 weeks ago when it comes to Carolina, and that's Brett Pesce. Like,
Ooh,
and we had talked to Brian Lawton at the top, and like they are a truly financial team, right? So, do they
Yes.
envision renting themselves this guy? It doesn't appear like they made any traction on an extension, and I know we mentioned Colton Parayko potentially being out there. Brett Pesce, right-handed shot, right? Right-handed
Yeah.
D shot.
Yeah, he is.
Like,
I mean, listen, Pesce's
There'd be a
29,
lineup
6'3",
too.
205, right shot. You know, he's 30 points a year.
that would be like a Hannafin. I think you're trading him, and I'll throw the Toronto Maple Leafs out there. You'd be trading him to resign.
Yeah. They want Timothy Liljegren. Like, you know what I'm saying? But, like, you're right. Carolina doesn't tend to lose assets for nothing. It will be fascinating to see what happens there because they are very much one of the teams in contention for the Stanley Cup. You know, Freddie Anderson comes back and all of a sudden they get some good goaltending. They've got enough talent on that team. It'd be shocking to see them do what St. Louis did with Stastny and Shattenkirk and just move on from a guy in the midst of a playoff year. So I don't know what that means. They would want a player back, presumably.
All right.
You think he'll get traded, or you're just an eye on that sort of?
He's just a name that intrigues me out there. I like Carolina's a tricky team to read because they're one of those teams where, you know, they're in the second tier. Do you have them up there with? I don't know. I mean, outside of is this the widest open Stanley Cup in quite some time here? Can you pick 3 teams that are Stanley Cup favorites and then work yourself into 10 of them being on the outside looking in?
No. This is the first year I look at it, and I think there's a top tier of one team, Florida. And then there's
Florida's that much above everybody else.
To me, there's a separate tier from the next group, which is 10 teams big.
We can have Vegas in that conversation, then we cannot have Vegas in that conversation. And lately, we don't have Vegas in that conversation because there's been a fall off a little bit.
Sorry, Kip.
Yeah.
They have like a 589 points percentage this year. They've lost 3 in a row. They're 14th in the NHL. Like, I get your point.
Yeah.
They get healthy.
They just
Stone
got
comes back. They
starched
make
by
a trade.
Columbus last night.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough for me to say, look out. You know, the Jets are the second best team in the league by points percentage. The Winnipeg Jets. I mean, they're a good team.
But you don't
you're
really.
Not like,
you're not like, oh, they're one of the favorites to win the Stanley Cup.
No, I mean, they have Connor Hellebuck, who's a top.
So doesn't this
goalie in the
make
league, and
Friday's deadline that much more intriguing that teams are kind of thinking your way is like, okay, Florida, I get it. They look unbeatable right now. But outside of Florida, maybe it's a key injury. Maybe they get cold at the right time. Let everybody go back to Bobrovsky. Can he really do it?
That's kind of
right?
where I'm stuck.
Is he really that good now? He's going to win them the Stanley Cup. I never bet on that guy. Right? That's what people are saying.
It's funny. Butchergrass was on Twitter yesterday making the case for Bobrovsky for the Hall of Fame, and I was like, "What?
The Hall of Fame?"
But you look at it, and it's like 400 plus wins, 2 Vezina trophies. You know, he's hot again, like for his zillionth for straight year here.
Take Florida to the Stanley Cup final or win the Stanley Cup, and he's in.
You know what I mean? Yeah, it's like he's a sneaky guy that you're like, he's actually had quite the career, and to bet on him to fall off.
But look at the teams now outside of Florida that you go, like, don't think about us, give me a reason why we can't win it this year.
Bruins, Rangers, Canucks, Dallas Stars, Edmonton Oilers,
Carolina,
Toronto
Maple Leafs.
Sure, Jets, Vegas. It's a long list in the next tier. So, that's why I was asking lots. Like, how do you feel about teams getting aggressive when you're not head and shoulders above 10 other teams? You're in the mix with them, but
it is. It's a weird
level.
It's weird.
It is weird. Tampa Bay's not even in that group. Like, I'm curious to see what they do. If
Tampa is as inconsistent as they are, and not really being comfortable with Vasilevsky being all the way back after his surgery. I'm not dumb enough to completely write them off.
Braden Point, Steven Stamkos, Nikita Kucherov, Victor Hedman, Vasilevsky, Anthony Cirelli. Go through the list. Hagel, Nick Paul. They have so many good players.
Oh, my gosh.
So many good players on that team.
If they somehow found their way into a conference final or a Stanley Cup final, would you be that shocked?
You'd be like, I can totally see it.
No, I wouldn't.
Yeah. I mean,
Chernak's so good.
John Cooper.
You get Hannafin.
You guys wouldn't be shocked if they went to the final this year.
Would not be
You're
shocked.
crazy. You would be shocked.
I'd be surprised.
Everyone would be like, this
levels
group.
of surprise.
Yes.
Like their blue line outside of those guys you name, it's like,
their
it's a lot
is
of Radish and
Hannafin helps.
Hannafin. If all of a sudden you're Hedman, Hannafin, Chernak, and Hayden Fleury, you're like, okay, there's 4 guys.
Chernak always gets hurt, though. He finds a way to always get hurt.
He got murdered last year.
When Bunting kicks out his feet, it's really hard to.
He kicked out his brain through his ears. It was a brutal hit.
Yeah, it was bad.
I'm wondering what the Washington Capitals are going to do here. And the word, we didn't even talk about this the other day, but Kuznetsov.
Yeah.
The guy went from easily could have won the Conn Smythe the year they won the Stanley Cup. It went to Ovi.
He maybe scored the biggest goal in their franchise's history.
The breakaway goal off the Ovi pass.
The overtime winner against Pittsburgh, slid it 5-hole, Matt Murray, Game 6. That's probably one of the biggest goals ever had. Slayed their dragon.
What a fall off.
Crazy.
I mean, he's struggled.
Yes.
He struggled personally and is in such an interesting place now that he seems to be through the program. He's at this part of the program where he's allowed to practice. They put him on waivers, and he had a remarkably positive interview and debut with the Hershey Bears of the American Hockey League. He's always
been a very interesting guy. Like in terms of an interview, and
Yeah.
like he'll give you he'll give you stuff.
He is an interesting guy.
They are kicking tires on Chychrun.
Caps are.
Yes.
Poor Chychrun. It's just like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
What's
He's
happening?
bouncing around from bad team to bad
Like
team.
they need defense, and it's one of those markets where they can't be like Chicago for the next 3 or 4 years.
No.
No.
They need to actually like be competitive.
Yes.
See, I don't hate teams trading for a guy that they see as a part of their future now, even if it's not for a playoff run, which is why Markstrom to New Jersey made sense 2 weeks ago, and it makes sense today. You know, I don't have any problem with guys, you know, the way that Hronek went to Vancouver, and then it's time to get settled, and all of a sudden he's a valuable player. So
They need defense there. How's Sandin working out? I thought he'd be great.
I don't know.
He's exactly the guy that left the Toronto Maple Leafs, I'm told.
He had 3 goals and 12 assists in 19 games with the Caps last year. He has 3 goals and 17 assists in 52 games with the Caps.
They're shopping for defensemen, and if they don't get it at the trade deadline moving forward, they'll go and sign one of those guys in the summer.
What's crazy?
I hear.
Yeah.
You could look back on that trade that Dubas made because they got the first-round pick. That was Boston's first-round pick and Eric Gustafsson, and they took Easton Cowan with that pick.
So Cowan and Gustafsson
That could
for
be
Sandin.
Dubas's greatest trade.
Yeah.
As a Leafs general manager, and he didn't even make the pick.
Yeah. He needs he needed 3 more of those just to even it up.
Yeah, I agree. No, I couldn't agree more.
I like his trade record.
What?
I do.
You're nuts.
Not doing a debate on this right now.
You just got those glasses on and you're like, oh, immediately you turn into Kyle. Like, no way. They were bad. A lot of bad.
I just
Not
got
doing it.
Okay.
I just got a text. I'm going to read it for you,
Yeah.
and you guess who sent it.
Okay.
I checked again. League only awarding 1 Stanley Cup this year.
I'm on the text.
Our thanks to Brian Burke.
Thanks, Berkey. And that's a great point. 10 teams think they have a chance to win the Stanley Cup.
Yes.
10 of 11, whatever, are going to go chips all in and then come up bust and have paid for rentals, and now they're in trouble.
Thanks to Gary.
10 think.
Yep.
Yeah, 10 think, but none can win it if you don't think.
Thanks to Gary's beloved playoff matchup, there's going to be 6 contenders out in the first round. Great stuff.
Yeah, it's sub-awesome. That's for sure. I don't know, but we're 72 hours away. Actually, a little bit less coming up on, we're probably 70 hours or less, 69 hours.
Something going to happen tonight?
Hope so.
Well, Zucker has been held out as a possible trade candidate. Someone tweeted earlier that they wanted the Guentzel thing done by tomorrow night.
Yeah.
So things are moving.
There is some rumblings out of Pittsburgh that Kyle could revisit signing him.
Guentzel re-signing. God, that would really take the wind out of my sails. It's not fun.
The price has to come down, though.
What do you think the price is? 10?
9.
Yeah.
Maybe if he comes down to 8.5, 8.25.
Pittsburgh just have 6 30-year-olds under contract till they're 36.
He's still got to make Sid happy here. Sid's not going away
you're right.
anywhere.
They're good players. They're effective guys.
So
The rest of the team's not been lost.
So intriguing as we get ever so closer to Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern. And stay with Sportsnet, stay with the Real Kyper and Bourne show. We'll make sure that you're covered.
Yes, sir.
All right. What's up for tonight?
Tonight is a non-Leafs night, the only one all week. Yep. So children time.
Our thanks to Brian Lawton for joining us. Enjoy your games tonight, and we're back tomorrow for more Real Kyper and Bourne.